Small Business Spotlight. We're highlighting the Steel Yard out of Paragould, Arkansas. Joining us back with us, we got Mr. Butch Cooper. He's the owner of the Steel Yard. Welcome back, Butch.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to say something here because we got this Small Business Spotlight set up, and you didn't even know about my Small Business Spotlight. We're highlighting the Steel Yard out of Paragould, Arkansas. Joining us back with us, we got Mr. Butch Cooper. He's the owner of the Steel Yard. Welcome back, Butch.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to say something here because we got this Small Business Spotlight set up, and you didn't even know about my program, correct?
That's correct.
All right,
That's correct.
But then you first contacted Conduit for Action, right?
That's correct.
Right. So you had this workers' comp issue. You didn't know who to turn to, so you contacted Conduit.
Absolutely.
All right, so that should tell you something about Conduit right there, folks. I mean, you just talk about a conduit of small business that are fed up with, where else do we turn? Who's going to listen to this story?
Absolutely.
You just heard he's 30-plus employees, had plans to expand, had to lay off 5. If he gets another claim, he might actually not be able to keep the doors open.
That's correct.
I mean, so here's where the system is failing. And by the way, he's dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. He gets these A-plus ratings from OSHA, I'm sure, or the insurance
whoever
company.
comes in, insurance companies, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, how did you eventually hear about the program? I'm just curious.
Well, what's so funny is Ed called me from Conduit over.
Joe, yeah.
Joe. I'm sorry, that's Ed. I meant to say sorry about that, but Joe, yeah. He called me and told me he's the only one that really kind of responded back to some questions I had about workers' comp. And so next thing I know, he says, hey, you know what? He says, I'm going to put you on a radio show in Jonesboro. And I said, okay, that's cool. And he told me about Paul's program. I said, okay, well, Paul calls me immediately. And I thought, man, I never heard this guy. I ain't never heard of him. So anyway, I'm down there talking about it. And one of my guys that does my purchasing, his name's Jeffers, he says, oh, dude, that's the best guy ever. He goes, man, he's awesome. I listen to him all the time. I said, you're kidding me. So anyway, I go down there, and he's telling me all about some of these programs and some of the things you went over. Well, one of the guys in the salesman down in the other office, he hears us talking. He's like, dude, yeah, I know him, man. He's awesome. I'm like, what the? I said, well, how did I not know this guy? But I think everybody at the Steel Yard knows him except me. This program is very popular at the Steel Yard.
All the Steel Yard. I want to give a great shout out to the folks at the Steel Yard. Me and Butch were debating earlier as to whether or not they were talk radio slackers because the guy, the owner of the business, was working so hard he didn't have time to listen to talk radio.
That's correct.
I'll let you guys sort that out.
There you go.
But yeah, we appreciate all the listeners there,
Thank
and
you.
certainly appreciate this whole thing coming together because we just want to make people aware of all of this.
Right.
Matter of fact, got a text message from let me read you this text here because you said your mod number was what?
2.66.
Okay. We got Derek in Pope County writes, I'm a safety manager for a company in Russellville, Arkansas. We provide manufacturing, millwright, and electrical service. Our mod factor is 1.24, and we have 80 employees. We had 5 recordables last year. I have never heard of a mod factor that high. That's Derek in Pope County. Mm-hmm. So far you're right. I mean, it's a ridiculously high mod number.
Yeah, and like I said, I've contacted NWCI and I had them refigure it twice, and they said it's right on.
Did they just say that you're the most unlucky guy in the world?
Absolutely,
having so many claims.
Absolutely, and that's one reason I'm glad to be on this show. I tell you, this is a voice for small business right here, guys. I'm telling you, and we need a big response out of you folks that's struggling with this workers' comp area. Now, there's other areas small business struggling, I know, but this is one of the biggest ones. You talk about workers' comp and small business. I mean, management will just cringe. They hate to hear that word at the workplace. And we had questions like when we put safety in our place, we've had it for years, and a guy goes out and he disobeys a safety rule and he gets hurt. Guess who's 100% liable for that? The company is. And so if the company does something wrong and it's bad what they do, they're 100% reliable. They're 100% liable for it. But if a guy goes out and disobeys a safety rule and gets hurt, guess what? The company's 100% liable for it.
Yeah.
And it's not. This system will not work. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you right now, there's got to be a lot of folks over the state of Arkansas that's battling this issue. And folks, I'm telling you, we have got to come together and we got to have a voice and let these people in leadership know that something's got to be done.
Yeah, something definitely has to be done about this.
Correct.
So tell me, you've reached out to the state government agency that regulates workers' comp, have you not?
Yeah, I have.
What is their role in all of this?
Okay.
Right now it seems we got private rating agencies and private insurance companies, then the government. Go ahead.
Right. Well, the workers' comp of commissions out of the state of Arkansas, what they're in charge of is the law. They are in charge to make sure companies around Arkansas have workers' comp.
And complicated thing. And it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and you have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. We're so glad that you're with us. If you want to contribute to the program in any way, one of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us today. That phone number, as always, is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. So a couple of interesting developments. Let me just kind of go over what we're going to talk about today. And it may not be in this order. The Rural Development Conference down in Hot Springs is kind of wrapping up things. The governor spoke earlier today. That's a thing. Then we have... some more developments on Facebook with this James Sturch story. Believe it or not, State Representative James Sturch, his aunt, or at least someone who claims to be his aunt, calls him out on Facebook essentially for walking out and killing that bill. You seen that, Joe, up on the screen? We're gonna get to that. That's pretty funny. Also, the governor's spokesperson, J.R. Davis, is giving Senator Brian King a really hard time on Twitter, all because, from my standpoint, Senator Brian King is pointing out that his boss, Governor Asa Hutchinson, has overspent and expanded government programs under his watch. And when you bring that up, then they just try to attack you on an issue, on topics that have nothing to do with the substance of what Senator Brian King brought up on Twitter. So we'll talk about that as well. But first, let's get to, and John Brumman and the left love. Asa getting all kinds of mad left love from John Brumman. Unbelievable. One of the most liberal journalists in the state of Arkansas, John Brumman, endorsing the re-election of Asa Hutchinson. And, even those Republicans that think that you're on the fence, that try to play in both camps in the name of pragmatism, this has got to kind of unnerve you a little bit. It's a huge red flag that our governor is not a conservative. He's not. John Brumman is happy. Many people back on November of 2014, when the governor won, there was nobody when the polls closed at 7:30. By 7:34, he was projected the winner. Tom Cotton was projected the winner too at the same time. And then you got to, I mean, did anybody then think, oh man, John Brummett's going to be writing complimentary articles about Asa? The reason he's writing complimentary articles is because he agrees with the policy of liberalism that is being enacted. 870-275-9799. We're going to start, though, right here with State Representative Dan Douglas is back in the news. Because at this Rural Development Conference, some ridiculous statements are being made. Just ridiculous. Michael Wickline reports that in Hot Springs, State Representatives Dan Douglas and Speaker of the House Jeremy Gillum talked about how in order for us to finally get to a point where we will fund our bridges and our roads, that bridges will have to collapse and major accidents will have to occur on deteriorated roads before the Arkansas legislature enacts laws to raise more money for highways. Now, is that not crazy? I mean, it certainly sounds like it's certainly a leftist tactic, right? We need more money for the EPA because, and if you don't want to give more money to the EPA, then you are for these terrible things that are going to happen. It's veiled. It's not quite as overt as the leftists go, but these are progressive Republicans, and so they kind of have to play on the fence a little bit.
Or here's a crazy thought. Let's take money from things that we don't need to fund and fund it into something that needs to be funded. For instance, our highways need
too much common sense on this side of the glass. On your side of this is way too much common sense, Joe.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
You're not going to fit in down in the Marble Palace.
I got to tone it down.
Yeah, I got to tone it down. Listen to this. During this year's regular session, we remember that Dan Douglas, he tried to push the gas tax increase. And it was... it was comical because anytime Dan Douglas presents anything, it's actually quite a laugh. But State Representative Dan Douglas, he's from Bentonville. He needs to be primaried. I mean, I don't know. Last I heard, I haven't heard of anybody announcing, but somebody needs to primary Dan Douglas for sure. But what he wanted to do was raise the tax on wholesale fuel prices, which would have caused your price at the pump to go up. And he was doing it by putting something on the ballot that was deceptive. It had to do with bond issues. And if it would have been triggered, then your gas prices would have gone up. But it was nowhere specified in the title of the bill that this was actually going to result in an increase in your taxes, an increase in the amount of money that you'd be paying to the government. It was extremely deceptive. Now, thankfully, this revenue increase attempt, this revenue generation attempt failed, okay? And the political establishment and the elites down there haven't gotten over it. I mean, they can't comprehend this. Listen to this. Let's see. I don't see anything right now with the makeup of the legislature passing the legislature, Douglas said during a panel discussion with 8 lawmakers at the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's Arkansas Rural Development Conference. I think it's going to have to be a ballot initiative where you go out and get signatures out there to get something in front of the public, and the public want better roads. They want their roads maintained. It's like the old Fram oil commercial. Pay me now for an oil filter or pay me later for an overhaul. When we listen to this, Dan Douglas, quote, "When we start having bridges collapse and people killed, then we'll start funding highways." What an incredibly... you know what? You feel free to characterize it for me. 870-275-9799. Fearmonger comes to comes to mind. Fearmonger. What else? The idea, desperation. So desperate that you didn't get your tax increase, and so now you're desperately trying to say, well, when our bridges collapse, our bridges are going to collapse some point, and when that happens, and people get killed, people get killed, and then maybe you'll give more money to the government. House Speaker Jeremy Gillum, Republican of Judson. I feel like my impression of him is just a little bit out of practice. I haven't done it in a while. House Speaker Jeremy Gillum, Republican of Judsonia, said that, quote, when you start to have critical accidents and the bridge collapse scenario, then I think you're going to get people to take it serious. So Jeremy Gillum, he just piles on in with the desperation and the fear-mongering.
Or instead of threatening people by saying, hey, when this happens, then we'll start getting on it because people will start taking it seriously, instead of doing that, again, like I said, take money from something that doesn't need to be funded and put it into the roads. Prioritize.
By the way, I can you imagine if that happened? Can you imagine if Dan Douglas and Jeremy Gillum, if there was an accident and there was a bridge that collapsed, can you imagine if their response was, well, now do you want to get your taxes raised so you'll take funding highways seriously? It's the people of – essentially what he's saying is it's the people of Arkansas's own fault that other Arkansans are dead because your representatives didn't raise taxes. Unbelievable. Gillum said no one wanted to transfer state general revenue to state highway and transportation department 2 years ago because, quote, it took away funding from other programs and things that they felt were too valuable. Well, come on, Dan Douglas. Come on, Jeremy. What's more valuable than our lives? If it's such a dire situation and such a dire scenario and our bridges are about to start collapsing and major accidents are about to start occurring on our highways, Joe, listen to this real quick. I mean, I can't believe he said that. It took away funding from other programs. Gillum said no one wanted to transfer state general revenue to state highways, which is exactly what you're saying, because it took away funding from other programs that we felt were too valuable. Now, what's more valuable than your safety on our highways? So they'll do it too. I mean, they'll make the same decision that they claim we're making or other people are making for not wanting to send a tax increase out to the people. So, anyway, who do we have on the phone, Joe?
David from Pope County.
David, Pope County, you're on the Paul Harrell program. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
I got a question for you. I served on a local court here in Pope County for about 8 years, and if I remember correctly, there was I believe it was state gas tax that was passed a couple of years ago.
Yes.
That was split up, and I know for a fact that our county alone was getting an additional probably close to $50,000 a month, which is nearly $600,000 a year going into the county road department, which is great. But if a county's getting that much money, where's all the other part of that tax that comes in that was going to the state going? What's it doing? What's it being used for? What's it being spent on? This is getting ridiculous. They're using it, like you said, as a fear-monger, and I'm getting real sick of it. And by the way, my slogan next year is anybody but Asa.
Hey, that's I think a lot of people certainly think that way. Matter of fact, Asa Hutchinson read a letter, something from a constituent in response to a campaign finance letter down at the Rural Development Conference today, and they said, I don't have any money to give you, but I'll support you until somebody better comes along. I mean, that's the response he got back from a fundraising letter. I mean, now you, which is kind of embarrassing in a way, but he read it, kind of got. But you think this is outrageous though? If you have Dan Douglas, whose bill failed to raise our taxes for highways, and now they're saying, well, when the bridges collapse. I mean, isn't that a Democrat tactic? Isn't that what the Democrats do?
That's exactly what it is. It's a fear-mongering tactic. I mean. Listen, I could say some things, but that's all it is. It's an old-school Democratic tactic. Let's scare everybody to death and get them, freak them out, and then they're worried about their security and their safety, and they'll be willing to do things that they wouldn't normally do. How do you think Obamacare got passed?
Yeah. Well, it comes to mind right now, like if you try to cut welfare programs back, then they'll say, oh, okay, all right, well, maybe you'll take welfare programs seriously when you see people dying in the streets. When they're starving to death. And it's like, come on. I mean, you're ascribing worse motives to people who just want limited government, and they think the government has enough money, and they're not prioritizing it properly.
Well, and, Paul, the reality of it is, at this point, we as a country, and I think it starts on the local level, but we as a local government, as a state government, as a country, I mean, literally have got to get a rein on what we are spending. You can only get so much revenue, period, until basically this, I mean, we're literally going to crumble from within. And people don't understand that how close we really, really are to that.
David in Pope County, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for the phone call. And you're exactly right. Matter of fact, if you look at what Trump is doing, Trump's budget, folks, is actually going to make states, if it were to pass, states would have to grow up. That's what would have to happen.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, David.
Well, the other thing about that you made a comment about his budget is, and people need to understand this, because we saw the same thing happening at the county level. Once again, the fear-mongering is that you're cutting the budget. Well, the reality is you're not cutting the existing budget. What you're doing is you're cutting the growth in the budget. Yeah. In other words, if you have $1 million budget this year and it's going to be $110 million next year, and you say, well, no, we can't afford that, we're going to make it $102 million next year, then the Democrats start hollering and screaming, and, oh, well, you've cut $8 million out of the budget, we're going to lose it. No, you're not. That was $10 million in growth. We're just sustaining what we have. And if we don't start doing that on a more logistical level, we're in trouble.
Yeah, you're exactly right. David, be safe, sir, in Pope County. Folks, before we go to break, I want you to know that iTex is your first choice for cost-effective IT services, because protecting your business means protecting your data. And if you're tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending when all you're trying to do is run your business, provide jobs for your employees and their families, as well as earn a dollar yourself, I want you to know that using iTex will prevent downtime and loss of employee productivity, and they'll do it all with an affordable, predictable budget. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses. They help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money, and you should contact them today for a free consultation. 870-336-9778. It's a free consultation. 870-336-9778, or log on now to itexusa.com. That's itexusa.com. Back in just a moment.
Two-May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let Two-May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. Two-May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call Two-May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444. Or visit them on the web at TWOMEYPCrepair.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business,
then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Paul Harrell, your voice for limited government and small business in Arkansas.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 870-275-9799. Speaker of the House, Jeremy Gillum, from the Marble Palace in Little Rock, or I guess this was at the Rural Economic Development Conference, about highway money. Now, they've already said that Dan Douglas and Jeremy Gillum have already said that in order for us to take funding roads seriously, people are going to have to die. That's how bad it's going to get. In order for the legislators to let go of their limited government ideas of less money going to the government, in order for them to get their priorities straight, we're going to have to see bridges collapse, and we're going to have to see people die. It's pretty shameless, I know. It's desperate. It's fear-mongering. And matter of fact, if our bridges were to collapse tomorrow, do you know what everybody actually should be saying? Not, why didn't you raise our taxes, conservatives? No, you should look at the big government Republicans like Jeremy Gillum and Asa Hutchinson. You should ask them why they have overspent for the last 3 years in a row. Why have they increased the budget almost $500 million for the last 3 years in a row? Why have they done that? That money could have gone to highways. What have you done with our state government to get us to the point where the most basic function of our state government, which is roads that aid in commerce and a free market, are falling apart? What priorities are you committing in other places that are allowing our roads to suffer? Do we have a welfare problem in this state? Yes, we do. But those are the questions that would be asked of the ones who are in leadership. But instead, the one bit of revenue gathering that failed, now they're trying to say, well, you know what? When people start dying, they might as well, they could say the same thing. Why not? Why hasn't Dan Douglas and Jeremy Gillum said the same thing about the internet tax that they couldn't get passed? Why don't they say, you could see them like, well, that's going to mean less money, less sales tax revenue to the government, and that'll be less money for the working poor who need their welfare, and they're going to end up starving to death and dying in the streets. And maybe when they end up starving to death and dying in the streets, you'll take the internet tax a little bit more seriously so that we can actually adequately feed our poor. That's what a leftist would say, and yet here are the leftists, Dan Douglas, Jeremy Gillum, Republicans, who go to the Rural Development Conference and say, well, when bridges collapse and people start to die, then maybe we'll take funding our roads seriously. What a joke. What a joke these two men are. How they don't have a clue what the average Arkansan thinks about stuff like this. I mean, you know, this is their definition on display of leadership. And it's a failure of leadership, in my opinion. And to make a statement like that is ridiculous. They would be at home. Dan Douglas and Jeremy Gillum, they would be at home in the state of New York. They would be at home in the state of California, but not here in Arkansas, okay? All right? Take your fear-mongering. Take your I can't even say it's misguided because it's just plain wrong what it is you're doing. But maybe you should go run for office in New York. Right? Maybe you should go run for office in California. But I don't think you should be in office in the state of Arkansas. More on this in a moment.
workers' comp, insurance. It's the law. You have to have it. Number two is they got to make sure that if there's an injury on the facility there, that employee is getting taken care of.
Okay.
Now, I have contacted them several times. Probably out of anybody, they've been the most helpful for me. But still yet, a lot of the folks, and I'm talking about my state rep and some of the centers I've called, I've not got a good response out of them. And I think it's just really gray on how this stuff works.
Yeah, and what can be done exactly.
Right,
yeah.
right. The change of law is going to be tough, they said. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, but the system that we have here is literally a system where the government law has, is holding small business owners captive in many ways because you have to have it in order to be in compliance with the law, and yet you have private insurance companies. Let me ask you this: what kind of information does the private insurance companies have, or the rating agencies have? Do they see how much money's coming through your business in a year's time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, everything is based off payroll. They know what your payroll is, so they've got a good idea, and they base everything off payroll. And I want to tell you one thing that happened. It's funny you said that, and I want folks to hear this too as well. When they seen our payroll, we do have a pretty good payroll. And the reason being is we pay better than about average folks because our job requires skilled folks. We've got to have folks that's going to be there. They got to be careful. They got to pay attention to what they're doing because it could be somebody's life. So you got to remember that. So anyway, when they come in, one of the solutions that we were told was this. You're going to have to cut back on your payroll. Your payroll's too high. You're going to have to cut back bonuses because our payroll got so high. So now, you start seeing them, hey, look, what?
They want you to pay your employees less?
That's what that's.
And this is supposed to be something for the employees. Workers' comp is supposed to be helping in case you get hurt.
Right. And
that doesn't make sense.
So what has happened here is, you get people come in, they say, well, you got to turn every claim in. But really, if you turn every claim in, we understand knock your mod number up. So somehow we don't turn every claim in, but we just got to play that by ear. So it's really jacked up. It's really messed up. And so when I talk with different insurance companies that we're trying to bring on now, which I probably lost every one of them, I'm sure, that's okay. That's okay.
Hopefully you'll be more insurable.
Yeah, well, I hope so. But anyway, see, we got put in a pool, and what that does is it's a high risk, and so. Now, when we got a issue with an employee, we try to contact them. We email them, we call them, or whatever. And you know what? It's hard to get them to respond back. So we can't even get answers to questions that need to be
from
answered
the companies.
From the companies, and I'm talking about the high risk pool.
Let me ask you this: have you gotten when you ask these folks, "Hey, why is my mod number so high?" Have you gotten a straight answer on that?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, basically, it's a number of claims. It's a number of indemnity checks that you send in. And indemnity, what happens in an indemnity check is this: the more you get of those, the more your mod number goes up. And that is when somebody gets hurt, just like the guy I was telling you about a while ago.
He puts the Paul in politics. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
I'm going to go over some more of these quotes in this Michael Wickline article, but the main quote here is from Dan Douglas, where he says, hang on, where did it go? There it is. The bridges are going to have to collapse in order for people to take this seriously. It's sorry. When we start having bridges collapse and people killed, then we'll start funding our highways. Then Michael Wickline writes, House Speaker Jeremy Gillum said that when you start to have critical accidents and the bridge collapse scenario, then I think you're going to get more people to take it serious. Right now, everybody's kind of gets to push it off and say, I just don't want to travel those roads very often, so they rationalize it away. That's right. That's right. We rationalize it in a way. We don't want to travel those roads very often, and so that's what it is. We'd rather eventually wait for people to die, or no, actually that'll be the wake up call. We know when the bridge collapses and people die, that'll be the wake up call. Right now, everybody just gets to push it off. Gillum said, listen to this. Gillum said no one wanted to transfer state general revenue to the State Highway and Transportation Department 2 years ago because it took away funding from other programs and things that they felt were too valuable.
Like what? Honestly, like what? What is more valuable than fixing our roads?
Able to work adults getting free health care, maybe?
See, I don't agree with that because the roads things. Okay, if you're really concerned about the roads and bridges falling apart for the safety of the people, then you know what? You know what is unnecessary if there are less wrecks and less accidents on the road due to things like this? Healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Plus the fact, just the risk factors. 2-ton weapons going at each other at 70 miles an hour. Yeah, we want to have good roads.
Yeah, the slightest pothole could flip your car.
Good grief. All right, hang on. Let me get to the rest. State Representative Michelle Gray, Republican from Melbourne. She said she talked with a political consultant in Tennessee where the legislature cut taxes and approved gas and diesel tax increases. Quote, because they offset each other, the general public was more amenable to it. So maybe, in hindsight, instead of just having the straight $50 million tax cut, we should have offset it with some sort of increase with gas taxes or something like that. Stop. Can we go wide shot? I want to reference to the whiteboard here. The tax farce can either cut, which they're not going to do. They can shift or they can raise. And what Michelle Gray is talking about in what she said on the panel is just a shift. It's just a way to shift it. Or, I mean, is that a raise? I mean, a $50 million tax cut. No, it's really just a shift. $50 million tax cut and then a $50 million increase would just be a wash. So it's just a way to shift it. For more highway funds, listen to this. Senator Dave Wallace, a Republican from Leachville, said, quote, listen to Senator Dave Wallace, everyone. I would take this program and move it into our general fund. That would force all of our departments to cut across the board. No one likes that. It would be a lot of noise made, but I think it would work. Senator Dave Wallace is exactly right. Senator Dave Wallace is proposing the cut option.
So that's not a half bad idea.
Yeah. Now, Dave is on the tax farce. I wonder if ideas like that will go very far.
Probably not.
Actually cutting to make up for the spending that you want to do, or like normal people would have to do.
Or they'll do the cut and then somewhere they're going to have a raise.
Yeah.
Which either will be a raise or a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to try to find a way to make it revenue neutral or to give them more revenue.
I want to take you to a flashback here. Joe, pull up this audio. State Representative Dan Douglas. This is back when he was trying to get people to pass his gas tax increase. He starts talking about the revenue, raising the revenue. You see that one? Here's Dan Douglas from back in March when he was trying to pass his deceptive gas tax increase.
The highways in this state are one of the most important aspects of what state government does for our citizens. I could go on and on about the wonders of highways. One thing it will do, let me,
Stop.
I just thought.
Stop. If it does so many wonderful things, why can't you guys, if it's that important, why can't you find places to cut in state government? I mean, we have, our state government is much too large.
So, yeah, I bet you there's some excess around the state general stuff that, or other things that they fund that just fact that they could trim off just a little bit here and there and then bring it into it. Like excess that they're not using, a surplus, as some people would call it.
You would think.
You would think.
What we'd have to do, though, I mean, it would require massive cuts. It would require massive cuts. There's no doubt. So anyway, keep going with this audio.
Out of this one. The first year would create 2,300 jobs. We want to talk about economic development. It would create 2,300 private sector jobs.
Back it up a little bit. I love it. So he was on the House floor, and I just thought of this. Get your arguments ready, okay? A little tip. He's literally throwing everything in the kitchen sink of conservative arguments to try to get the General Assembly to vote to raise taxes here. I just thought of this. It will create 2,300 new jobs. Keep going. Let's listen. Do we have a freeze? We have a computer freeze. Folks, the phone number.
I just thought of this one. The first year would create 2,300 jobs. We want to talk about economic development. It would create 2,300 private sector jobs.
Well, there we go.
Here's the whole thing about highways. It takes money to put asphalt on the ground.
Really?
It takes money to pour concrete. It takes money to put steel in bridges.
Hang on. Maybe his bill failed because he was treating the people in the room like they were idiots. What's asphalt? What's money? I don't know. I need further explanation of these things.
I can just imagine Dan Douglas whenever he's down there talking, when he realizes the 2,300 jobs. Oh, I just thought of something. Just fingers up in the air, going like this wide-eyed, surprise look on his face. Oh, I just thought of something. This is brilliant. Got it.
This'll bring it home. This'll bring me all the votes.
Just like my Wrangler jeans.
Yes, Wrangler blue jeans. Do we have any more? Is that it? Go to the end. Go to the next clip. This is Dan Douglas as he's closing for his gas tax bill, where he talks about going to the bathroom. Yes,
about filling chuck holes. I heard somebody say this morning, I was talking to him about it, and they said, what about the single mom at home with 2 kids that's just barely getting by? I'm going to ask her for a fuel tax increase. Well, the price of fuel varies so much.
Stop. Compare that to him now saying, well, when enough people die in terrible accidents and if enough bridges collapse, maybe people will take funding our roads seriously. I think there's. So it's just funny.
What I'm getting from this is Dan Douglas is more concerned about the roads than about struggling individuals.
He really much is. But now he's concerned that in order to get the roads funding, people are going to have to die.
Well, okay.
I mean, it's a pretty bold.
I'm more looking at this as the fact that Dan Douglas is more worried about the possibility of someone dying on the roads.
I'll give him credit. I'll give him credit for that. Yeah,
but okay. The possibility of someone dying on the roads compared to someone who is actually struggling.
Yeah.
So a possibility versus a reality. What seems to be the bigger problem here?
He would rather the struggling single mom have to pay more in gas taxes. Keep going with the audio.
Remember last summer, I paid $1.65. It's $2.05, $2.10 right now.
So they can afford it.
Fluctuations in fuel price
Poor people can afford it.
Part of the everyday life that we live with. But what's more troubling to that single mom is whenever she hits a chuck hole or chug hole, whichever one you want to call it, pothole.
A pothole.
And they run a tire, or they knock the front end out from under their car.
Or they cause a bridge to collapse.
Or several $100s to repair it.
Or they
that's more devastating to her than.
Or they cause a Final Destination style accident and kill 50 people.
And my final remark, I was presented this bill in the Transportation Committee the other day. And after it passed out of the Transportation Committee overwhelmingly.
Bathroom.
I did what a lot of us do, especially when we get older, Representative Hendren. I went into the men's room, and as I was standing there staring at the wall, as we all do, I heard a voice beside me.
He's crazy. He's crazy.
No, it wasn't. But it was
there was
man
nobody
that said,
there.
Now
There was nobody there.
Listen to this.
Stop. Oh, there was nobody there. There's some guy who's like, Dan Douglas was talking to himself in the bathroom. Dan Douglas was just sitting there at the urinal talking to himself. He heard a voice. Okay, keep going with the audio.
Man said, one thing you didn't mention was the safety aspect. He said, I was a first responder, and I had to cut 2 screaming teenage girls out of a car that were in a wreck because of a poorly repaired road and dangerous driving conditions.
So it's actually not new.
And I thought about that, and then I thought about this single mother that somebody mentioned.
But did you wash
and
your hands?
And don't they want safe roads for their children? Don't they want safe roads for themselves? Yes, it's nice to have less congestion, and it's nice to have smoother roads, but safety above all else. And if we do not send this out to the voters...
All right, stop. It is... So that's the issue. That's the flashback audio. Now Dan Douglas is quoted in the paper saying it's going to take people to die. So that's actually consistent with his floor testimony there, talking about there was a chug hole and, people died. A pothole is what I call it. I've never called them. I mean, yeah, me neither. But I don't know. Maybe that's a regional. I mean, maybe in other parts of Arkansas they call them chug holes. I don't know. So earlier today at the Arkansas Rural Development Conference, Governor Asa Hutchinson said this about this very issue, the gas tax. Go ahead, Joe. This is the Asa's audio. It's right there on the screen. So listen to this. This is from earlier.
Infrastructure. And I know you had some legislators that had a good panel yesterday, and highways came up. And we didn't get it through this session of the General Assembly. In my view, we need to bring a highway plan to the voters in 2018 and put it on the ballot and give the voters an opportunity to develop a highway plan. And so I hope that you all will be open to that. I know there's some groups that are working on that, and I'd like to see the same plan that was presented to the General Assembly that narrowly did not get out, that be presented on the ballot and give the voters that opportunity to vote on that plan. But the highways are important to rural Arkansas.
All right.
As you drive around
I wanted to play that for you. Sorry, the audio is really strange left and right. It didn't record that way. I wanted to play that for you so you understand that the governor still wants more of your money. The governor still doesn't think he has enough of your money, in spite of the fact he has increased spending, $133 million his first year, $143 his second, and $165 his third. He still thinks he needs more money. And the question is not if a bridge collapses today or tomorrow, and I certainly hope it doesn't happen. The question is not, let's blame the conservatives who didn't want to grow government to pay for the roads. The question is, what have they done? Why have they mismanaged our money to the point where our roads are in the condition that they're in? And if roads are such a priority, matter of fact, you really could. I mean, this is a much better argument, slam dunk argument, than the leftist argument, what they say about the welfare situation. Because it literally does affect everybody, and yet they don't want to put it in the general budget. They don't want to actually have to cut the size of other government departments in order to pay for it. The question would be, why have you mismanaged government to the point? What have you done your last 3 years? You've grown government. You've increased spending instead of cutting spending, cutting the size of government so that we would have money left over. We don't even have a surplus. We have corrupt politicians and GIF problems, like crazy right now across our state. We got politicians openly enriching themselves. Politicians that Governor Asa Hutchinson threw fundraisers for. because you were so concerned about a limited government candidate actually getting into the race. I'm talking about John Woods. I have the invitation. And the highway initiative, if it did get on the ballot, they want it. So they want to put it on the ballot. The issue is still alive. You'll start seeing the petition to get it on the ballot. I promise you it'll be deceptive. And I'm sure it'll be titled something like The Cure for Cancer. But it will really mean a tax increase. We got to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program, The Liberty Machine. We'll be back here in just a moment.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
This is Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. The Republican Party of Arkansas has something called a platform, and it's basically what they believe. Things like lower taxes, right to own and bear arms, encouraging individual responsibility and initiative. Yet in this legislative session, we see Republicans fighting against the right to own and bear arms by amending over and over the campus carry bill. We see instead of lowering taxes and fees being raised 8 different times. We see the attack against individual responsibility and initiative by continuing to embrace Obamacare Medicaid expansion called Arkansas Works. So what we need is not conservatives or not Republicans, because those names don't seem to mean anything anymore. We need platform Republicans. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good. Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP parody.
Eight 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Let's see here. 1 second. So we've been going over this gas tax. I think we've adequately highlighted how desperate they are for your money. How absolutely desperate they are for your money. The Republicans in leadership. This should be an example. I would love for conservatives to stand up and It's just shameful. This is your leadership. They are adopting the tactics of the left by saying that people will take highway funding seriously when the bridges collapse. And I mean, what a crazy, crazy statement to make. Janet writes in, at Asa Hutchinson and at Mike Beebe. This is what Janet tweeted. Brothers from another mother, ? So to speak, at John Brummett, near twins. Quote, yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. John Brummett's article endorsing the re-election of Governor Asa Hutchinson. There are so many red flags here. Conservatives need to be standing up everywhere. Your conservative politicians, when you see them, you need to tell them to stand up. The people in the leadership, people who are used to pass tax increase legislation, they're using leftist tactics, saying that people are going to have to die before we take. Well, essentially, what Dan Douglas and Speaker of the House Jeremy Gillum are saying is, maybe they'll appreciate government once people die because the government wasn't there. That's essentially what they're hoping for. Maybe you'll understand how your dependency on us really is a good thing once you die in a bridge collapse accident. That's the way I take their comments. That's the way I take Dan Douglas's comments. That's the way I take Jeremy Gillum, who didn't have the. I mean, come on, Jeremy. Why did you say? Well, hang on a second. I feel like that's a little extreme. I feel like that's just a little much. No, there was not that. At least that wasn't recorded in the Wick line piece. Any sort of dissent or outrage or anything like that. It's just really, really frustrating at this point. Hang on one second. So we got ASET rural development. We heard that. Dan Douglas on highways. So John Brummett will be up next. Well, not on the program, but we'll talk about his article endorsing Asa Hutchinson. Also, we still have to get to James Sturch's supposed aunt on Twitter calling him out in a negative light for that Conduit for Action story. Feel free to chime in if you go to Conduit for Action's Facebook page. How many comments? Can you scroll up, Joe? How many comments are up there right now? As I'm looking at it's a lot of shares and a lot of comments. Yeah.
82 comments, 186 shares.
186. Are you sure that was 186? I thought that was more than that.
186 shares and 82 comments.
What is that? Oh, okay. So it's liked by 400 and something other people.
It's reacted to by 400.
Okay, 400. Okay, 400 folks have reacted to it in some way. 180 something shares. How many comments again? 86. Anyway, join in. I sounded off a few times. Also, the other one that had to do with an Arkansas, a taxpayer first Arkansas budget. What would that look like? You can talk about that as well on Facebook. Interesting debate going on over there. Also, an interesting debate going on Twitter. We'll talk about that. Governor spokesperson J.R. Davis lashing out at Senator Brian King because Brian King has the nerve on Twitter to call out the leadership for overspending, the corruption, and the fact that you kept spending and you don't like the truth. You don't like people reminding you that you're in leadership and you are governing the way a liberal governs. You're governing the way a Democrat governs. John Brummett even says so now. John Brummett is saying that Asa Hutchinson is Mike Beebe's twin. Hello? Arkansas General Assembly, do you remember how many times you used to vote against Mike Beebe? Do you remember when you overrode Mike Beebe's vetoes? Do you remember how Mike Beebe was enabling the policies of the Democrats? Do you remember that? Well, the most liberal columnist in the state, writing for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, says that Asa Hutchinson is Mike Beebe's twin. Don't put your head in the sand. Those of you that have your head in the sand, pull it out of the sand and start realizing that platform republicanism is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
just like the guy I was telling you about a while ago. Well, instead of fighting it, let's just write him a check and get out of it. Well, that's an indemnity check. That's what they send to them.
And that's going to count against you.
But it counts against me. See, what these insurance companies that don't fight for you they don't understand. It kills us.
And do they have to fight for you because you have to have the product?
We have asked them. We got emails saying, we want to fight this. And the insurance company said, we're not fighting it. And they tell you that.
Yeah. Do they tell you that when you first sign on? Hey, I bet they don't. I bet they're like, we're going to be your best friend.
We're all about you. We're going to get out there. Yeah. We're going to make them get back to work. We're going to make them do this. We're going to follow up. And half time you can't get them return calls.
So the agency, which one of the agencies can see your payroll? Both of them? Insurance and
Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So do you think there's any greed going on here where they say, oh, man, this guy's got a big payroll. Oh, he can afford it. Look at the amount of payroll he's paying. He can afford $300,000 a year in premiums. I mean, you think that? I mean, to me, that'd be a temptation. If you understand human nature at all, surely that's happened before.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, anybody out there in business, what do y'all think? I mean, I think it's pretty cut and dry. And I'll be honest with you. When we get these guys in here and they see what we make and they see all these things, I'm telling you, heaven forbid you do have a claim. Heaven forbid your mod number does go up, because I tell you what they will do. They will push you, I think, to the limit to see what you can afford and what you can't afford. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, they have got us to the max where we're at. I can tell you that. Yeah. So they can back off.
Yeah, it's just an unbelievable situation. Mm-hmm. Captive market insurance companies, let's see, cannot lose money. Rate and premium goes up more than the loss each year. The rate and premium goes up more than they're losing each year. You think? I bet that's accurate with them. That's kind of a scam.
Yeah.
That's
well,
the case.
Let me get this out there if we got time for this. Okay. If you add all of our claims up in the past 3 years, all these claims that we had, last year's premiums covered all of it. Last year's premiums covered all those claims dollar-wise. So now the mod number stays with me, or those claims stay for 3 years, so my mod number is going to stay high for the next 2. So we're going to continue on going for the next 2 years struggling. We're just going to struggle. Now, we went 15 years, didn't have a claim.
Yeah.
So where's the number one thing they're telling me is, okay, man, it's just a streak of bad luck. What you're going through is just unusual. It's just unusual. And I don't hear that around where I'm at. And we're reaching out to the state of Arkansas. What are we seeing?
Okay, so I guess business owners, we got a guy in Russellville. We got, everybody out there, if this affects you, do you want them to contact you, Butch?
Absolutely.
I mean, you want to try to make these connections to try to, really dive into this issue, correct?
Absolutely.
So who should you want them to call you? Give your number out if you
Absolutely. We've got a toll-free number. It's a 1-800-662-9841. Our local number here is 870-236-8534. And you can call the office. Now, we know this might be an overwhelming thing. Bear with us, leave a message, and we will get back with you. Mm-hmm. I just want to reach out. Am I the only one having bad luck? Is it just a freak accident? What's going on with a 2.66 mod? I just want to know, is that legit? They're telling me, hang in there. That's what they tell me.
Hang in.
And we're saying, we don't get to print money. One more claim and we're out. We just want y'all to understand, you're going to have to take over not just the 6 jobs that lost, you're fixing to take over 35 more or 32 more. I'm telling you, this is a real deal battle that small business around the state battle. I hear too much of it. We just want to make contact with you guys. Just let us know.
Well, I tell you what would be helpful. I mean, this is what I'd like to do. So if you get in contact with Butch and you want your story on about this, I think it'd just be interesting because you've got stories. I mean, you just told us stories about the claim that's clearly fraudulent, and then you tell us about the story of where the system does work, and then they want you to fire the guy because they're afraid he's going to file another claim, but he's been with you for 15 years. So it's a system where it's like encouraging, it's just encouraging meanness, quite frankly, and greed. And I'm sure there's everybody out there listening, this concerns you guys have stories of this as well. And so give the numbers again, Butch. Butch Cooper.
Okay.
Oh, and you could Google Butch Cooper, the Steel Yard, and it's your website's going to come up, and you can contact them via email that way as well.
Absolutely. And my email address, if you do want to email me, is butch@steel-yard.com. And my phone number again is 1-800-662-9841 or 9841. And my regular number is 870-236-8534.
Yeah.
So guys, look, if you got anything, we'd love to hear from you. We really would.
And you feel free to also contact Conduit for Action as well, just the way you did. It starts out, we can,
Absolutely.
conduitforaction.org. It's very easy. Just go to the contact button and fire off an email that way. So there's a ton of ways that we can start, getting together here on this particular issue. Hey, Butch, I got another text message here. Let's see. Butch Cooper,
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
It's hour number 2. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, you have found it today. I'll summarize liberal columnist John Brummett's piece that has the title, The Case for ASA 2.0. Is essentially, number 1, he's going to win easy. Number 2, he's done great. And number 3, he saved Medicaid expansion. And number 4, the liberals like Asa. That's what I would say. Liberals like him. John Brummett writing this, quote, Hutchinson has governed as a pragmatic moderate, at least by definitions operative to today's rightward Arkansas plunge to retro-Confederate depths. He's claiming that us conservative Arkansans we're essentially racist Confederates that believe in slavery. That Arkansas's shift rightwards, Arkansas's, quote, plunge to retro-Confederate depths. Now, first of all, the reason I'm highlighting that is because it's very clear that you understand something here. John Brummett believes that it was the Republican Party that was responsible for slavery. And he is perpetuating a complete lie, a complete myth, because it was the Democrat Party that was responsible for slavery. It was the Democrat Party that wanted slavery. And so we were Democrats for a really long time. And we could talk about how the Democrat Party actually perpetuated in Arkansas's history discrimination, hello, Orville Faubus, called the Marxist for hillbillies. And let's not forget those facts. And so now that we've turned to the Republican form, or to the Republicans here in Arkansas, who are not doing a very good job in the leadership, by the way, he describes that as retro-Confederacy, as retro-Confederate. That is something to take into account. That is just another example of highlighting John Brummett's radical leftist views. So if John Brummett has radical leftist views like he does, and he calls Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson's governing over the last 3 years pragmatic, you can pretty much believe without a shadow of a doubt that his definition of pragmatism is at the very least to the left of yours. Number one, quote, he saved Medicaid expansion while lathering a Republican brand on it. He resisted a bathroom bill. He had a religious bigotry bill rewritten to be mildly less bigoted. He separated the observance of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday from that of the general leading the South's war against its own great nation over its desires to keep enslaving black people. He cut income taxes mostly on low and middle incomes. He resisted the National Rifle Association by wondering if maybe we shouldn't forbid guns at Razorback football games. Now, every one of those decisions that we just talked about are my criticisms of him, are your criticisms of him, and are actually John Brummett compliments. Those are John Brummett complimenting him on what he did. Now let's go over those real quick, just so you know. He resisted a bathroom bill. No, what he resisted was an actual problem that is already here in Arkansas, and we talk about, actually, it's very anti-science, not wanting to actually stand up and talk about the DNA of what makes people who they are, and just the concept of self-evident truth. But in reality, the bathroom bill was resisted by not allowing Judiciary Committee to meet. One of the governor's nephews, took care of that, and it was actually an attempt to protect the privacy of our young children and little girls, little boys in public-run institutions. That's really all that it was, and it really had nothing to do with the North Carolina situation, because Arkansas actually passed the non-discrimination. You can't create special classes of citizens. We actually passed that back in 2015, where local, really for the sake of economic, just in order to have a uniform code, so you're not going to have this city creating this special class of people, meaning if you're going to do something with civil rights, protecting a group, you're going to have to go through Little Rock, which is really, really a sound idea, in my opinion. So he rewrote a religious bigotry bill rewritten to be mildly less bigoted. Not at all. John Brummett here clearly misunderstands. He takes the phony progressive view of what the First Amendment is all about, or what one of the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment is all about, and that is protecting the church, protecting individuals so that they can, not be forced to participate in religious ceremonies that they believe goes against their religious beliefs and convictions. That's really what that's about. Because, see, some people who are religious, they look at marriage in a different way than secular society does. Or other religions look at marriage differently than, it's just really about totalitarianism and agreeing with people, heartily approving of things, has nothing to do with tolerance anymore. But I digress. Separating Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday because from Robert E. Lee, because that accomplishes a whole lot, like the removal of the Confederate statues down in New Orleans, because that's going to end people from having disagreements. It's actually going to bring us into a post-racial society. The post-racial society that we were supposed to get when Barack Obama was elected president. Barack Hussein Obama was elected president 8 years after September 11th, twice. And he's the first African-American president, and his middle name was Hussein, 8 years after September 11th. But yeah, racial tensions are higher than ever. And liberal columnist John Brummett says that Arkansas's turn to a purple or red state is retro-Confederate, end quote. He cut income taxes mostly on low and middle incomes. He loves that because John Brummett is a progressive. He believes that people who make a lot of money should be punished for their success, should actually be treated as second-class citizens in a way because now you owe more to the government. He resisted the National Rifle Association by wondering if maybe we shouldn't forbid guns at Razorback football stadium. Now, so that right there, that statement right there exposes Asa Hutchinson is a liberal's liberal. He's anti-NRA. And he's so anti-NRA, I don't know, maybe the Governor Hutchinson's time spent as the spokesperson for the NRA in the wake of the Sandy Hook shooting somehow turned him off to the NRA. NRA has egg all over their face. Because now, some people, I've talked to some activists, and they say the NRA was in on this the whole time. I don't know if I believe that, because that would mean people I've spoken to, the NRA, were just lying to me, and I don't want to go because I don't have any proof of that, and I don't believe that that's the case. I think that the governor used the NRA to look like he was for the Second Amendment and then immediately undermined what he had just signed. Again, this is John Brummett endorsing Asa Hutchinson's reelection, calling it Asa 2.0. Let's see here. Through all of that, John Brummett writes, there's been a tacit understanding among informed people on the extreme right that Asa will unleash his true inner right-wingedness and go all Brownbacky and Jindally in the second term. Yeah, right, sure. Yeah, in Asa's second term, he's going to govern like Bobby Jindal. Yeah, Asa can't even articulate why a free market economy is better than one that's planned and you pick winners and losers by giving money away to Chinese companies. And he believes health care is a right. He believes that we're born enslaved to one another. I guarantee you Asa believes that health care is a right now because our federal overlords say so. What else do we have? Now, this is interesting. One second. So he says that the right. Do you know who John Brummett talks about on the other person he talks about on the right? He talks about Republican Charlie Collins. Really? Charlie Collins is an establishment Republican. He is not somebody who's on the right. And yet John Brummett, once again, this is just a way to inform you that John Brummett is on the left if he thinks Charlie Collins is on the right from the perspective of an average Arkansan. Listen to this. A lot of this has to do with the unfortunately effective and tenacious Charlie Collins, the tax-cutting, gun-spreading Republican state representative from Fayetteville. Collins advocates deep across-the-board tax cuts for what he calls a good jobs magnet. Hutchins, see, boy, he's really complimenting Charlie here. John Brummett, in a way here, is trying to make himself look like a moderate himself, but he's not. You just got to know how to read between the lines. He's actually trying to cover the blueness of Asa with, when he starts talking about Charlie Collins, he's trying to cover the blueness of Asa, how blue Asa really is, how liberal Asa really is, how progressive he really is, by setting up this phony argument that what Charlie Collins pursued was conservative. If Charlie Collins had really tried to pursue conservative pieces of legislation, when the governor said, no, we're not going to cut taxes, you're going to do it in a tax farce, Charlie would have ran his legislation anyway. When the governor tried to torpedo your campus carry bill, Charlie, you would have said, no, I'm going to make Republicans vote on the record anyway. But instead, you didn't do that. You decided to play ball, and what ended up happening was the NRA supported your bill for the very reason that Asa took out in the next go-around. It's so funny to me. I've heard nobody compare just how inefficient our governing is. When Asa was in it for the very beginning, at the first time back in 2015, he raised the capital gains tax and everybody freaked out, so then he had to lower it. That's the only example I can think of Asa growing government and then having to lower it because there was such a huge backlash. if he actually shrinks the size of government by, let's say, restoring more Second Amendment rights, okay, or allowing you to exercise your Second Amendment right, okay, more than you can now, like he did with the first campus carry signing day. But then what did he do? He actually went back and changed it and restricted it even more.
I think it's interesting that he chose Charlie Collins out of all of the other quote-unquote Republicans that he could have chosen to cover up Asa's blueness. He had Dan Douglas, Joe Jett, Speaker of the House Jeremy Gillum.
Yep.
Just a laundry list of people that he could have chosen, but for some reason he chose Charlie Collins. I'm not sure why. If you really want to cover up as much blue as Asa has hidden away, the other three that I just mentioned would have been better choices.
That's a good question. That's a good point. Dan Douglas, certainly, with all of his well, I don't know, though. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if Dan would, because he's on the record of all the tax increases, though, and that's obviously not conservative.
There's something probably in his past that you could find.
Yeah. Brummett mentions Gillum, though. Surprisingly, House Speaker Jeremy Gillum did not put Collins on the tax farce, but he will shadow its work as Gillum's appointee to a concurrent joint interim committee on economic and tax policy.
He could also use his nephews.
I feel like Charlie Collins is like George Lucas. Did I say that the other day on the radio? I don't think I did.
I don't know.
There's an SNL sketch where somebody's playing George Lucas on the set of The Force Awakens as they're filming it, and he's just trying to be involved. He's like kind of back there. I feel like that's kind of the way Charlie Collins is when he got put on he didn't get on the tax farce, but he got put on the interim committee on economic and tax policy. The tax farce will almost assuredly now. John Brummett is saying something here at the end that is obviously not true. He's either one, not being honest, or two, hasn't really been listening to Asa and Jeremy Gillum. Quote, the tax farce will almost assuredly propose deep income tax cuts that won't be enacted until January 2019 after Hutchinson's reelection and won't inflict pain until later in Asa's lame duck term. Look, Jeremy Gillum said the other day that tax cuts are not necessarily the mandate. This is about, cut, shift, or raise. They're not going to cut government. They want more of your money. Asa said so today. He said so today at the Rural Development Conference that he wants the gas tax is still on the table, and he wants an initiative. He wants a petition to go out so it will get on the ballot so that they can trick you into raising your gas tax. They might shift things around, guaranteeing current level of funding for the government, raising this tax, lowering this tax, raising this tax, lowering this tax, making you think your taxes went down when in reality, I don't even think it'll be a shift. If they start raising this, lowering that, and they claim it's a wash, I bet you at the end of the day, if you start doing the math, more money, the people of Arkansas will be giving more money than they're giving now. It will be a net tax increase. It will be a raise. Yeah, no, not in your salaries, in the amount of money that you have to give to the almighty state government. Before we go to break, I want you to know that the Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School, not only can you become a licensed real estate agent with 6 days of class, you can learn the business. They make it fun, easy, entertaining, real-world situations. Not only will they set up shop anywhere in the state of Arkansas and do this for you, but the Northeast Arkansas Real Estate also offers continuing education for after you pass your real estate exam, for after you become a licensed real estate agent. So for you realtors out there right now, your local boards of realtors, local offices, if you guys want to get, keep up on these continuing education classes, they offer discounts for large groups at the Northeast Arkansas Real Estate School. Again, they'll come to you, set up shop. They'll teach anywhere in Arkansas, and they always make learning fun and motivating. Give them a call today, 870-336-4155. That's 870-336-4155. I know there's folks out there that have always thought about becoming a real estate agent. You want to know what it's about? Give them a phone call. Talk to them, 870-336-4155, or you can take their classes online at neaprofessionalschools.com. That's neaprofessionalschools.com. Now, if you mention my name, Paul, you'll get 10% off the cost of your class, neaprofessionalschools.com. We'll be back in just a moment.
2May PC Repair offers customer service and support from anywhere. Need help setting up a new computer or getting rid of frustrating viruses? Let 2May PC Repair help with computer networking, laptop repairs, or software installation. 2May PC Repair can upgrade your computer's memory to make it more responsive to your commands. And yes, even new computers can perform better than new after our computer setup and optimization service. Call 2May PC Repair today at 870-257-4444 or visit them on the web at twomeypcrepair.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
Hey, here's a flashback piece of audio. Remember when Dan Douglas was trying to pass the farm bill that would have absorbed the plant board and given Governor Asa Hutchinson all this extra power? Yeah, you know, that's what a pragmatist does. This is what it sounded like in committee. Remember this?
Recognized to present HB 1725.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee. And I guarantee you this one doesn't have anything to do with highways or tax increases today. It's just the opposite. Although I've had people say it's a power grab, it's a trying to steal
what do we got?
money, but it is nothing near that. The propaganda is rampant.
Doing here, we've had several bills come before us that try to that are combining agencies, and we keep hearing that this is the tone of this administration to bring efficiencies to state government. So does this align with, what we're seeing with other bills that are bringing these efficiencies as we, combine agencies?
If I might, Representative Douglas, sounds like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
I might ask Miss Amy Fetcher to come down here and join us with the governor's Department of Efficiency. Miss Amy.
Ms. Fetcher, if you don't mind introducing yourself for the record, you'll be recognized.
And for the record, I always try to get a good-looking woman sitting beside me.
Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Amy Fetcher.
That was one of the most awkward points of the entire session.
Good job, Dan. You made her feel very awkward.
For the record.
For the record.
Anybody gotten on the record that they want to sit next to ugly women? Has that ever happened? I don't think so. You're kind of stating the obvious there, Dan. She I don't think she got offended. I think Charlotte Douglas was offended because you can hear her, kind of react. That was but she went ahead. Amy Fetcher, she went ahead and testified for Dan Douglas, and the bill did eventually fail when it got to the House floor. All right, we got to take a break, folks. The phone number to call or text 870-275-9799. We're going to give you some Facebook and Twitter updates when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Text message here. Let's see. Butch Cooper, LOL, great guy, with 2 exclamation points. And says, tell him Buster Brown, UPS man, says hi. Haven't seen him in probably 10 or more years. Great to hear his voice. Does he still drive that red Ford pickup? LOL. Yeah, the answer is yes.
I still got one, yeah. I still got it. I still got it. Yeah, I still got it. I don't drive it all the time.
Okay,
now.
He says, I can tell he hasn't changed at all. What a stand-up guy. Needs to be more people like him. Just pass on the text to him. Thanks. And let me just say,
thank you.
For meeting you, you are a stand-up guy, and you're also a small business owner that's willing to go to the mat for his employees.
Absolutely.
Because this is a big issue. The fact that you didn't lay that guy off, I mean, that shows integrity and character, and the fact that we
did lay him off.
Oh, you did?
Well, that's what I was fixing to say. The first time I didn't.
Yeah.
But the second go around when I got put in the pool, I got no choice.
Okay. So to save 33 jobs, essentially, because if you get one more claim,
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I mean, and so. But I guess my point is these are the decisions that it's typical actually that small business owners are making every single day.
Is it tough? Yeah, those are tough decisions. Let a man go that you worked side by side for 15 years and get put in a spot like this, and it really, the system failed him. The system failed him.
Yeah.
And I think about the responsibility for 32 folks and their families, and here we are, we're hanging on. Yeah. We're hanging on. Yeah. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep doing what we can do, and hopefully we can get some help out of this.
Yeah.
Get some backup.
Yeah. It's Butch Cooper. His business is the Steel Yard, and the website is steel-yard.com as well. Mm-hmm. So steel-yard.com. You can go there, contact him, get the email very easily there.
Yes.
Butch, it's been a pleasure, sir. I look forward to having you on again sometime.
All right, thank you, Paul.
All righty, folks, we got to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. Intersection of conservative ideas and reality. The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. You can call or text. Let me know what's on your mind. We're going to follow up now with this James Sturch. The story was how Representative James Sturch killed special election reform by walking out, and we've really been covering this once a day since Friday. And the interesting part about all this is over on Facebook, there's been quite a lot of comments, quite a lot of conversations about this. Some people defending James Sturch, but most people are completely outraged that he would walk out at the precise time that action would require or cause the vote to fail. Somebody last night, I think, said, he wasn't the sole reason that it failed, and I said, well, yeah, he was. He was the sole reason it failed. I mean, it's obvious. Right now, 192 shares on this post and 80, almost 90 comments. What's interesting here is you scroll down, you eventually get to somebody named Marie. And this is crazy. If this is true, this is just, I found this funny to me. Okay, so James Sturch, let's throw it up on the screen. We're broadcasting on YouTube, Facebook Live, paulharrell.com. You see that somebody named Marie on this Conduit for Action Facebook post writes, quote, "James is my nephew, raised in a strong Democrat family. Then he went to college." First of all, she says strong Democrat family like, the good old days of Democrats, Orville Faubus. "James is my nephew, raised in a strong Democrat family. Then he went to college. Short story, he sold. The NRA and Republican Party bought him and put him in state House of Representatives. So count on him to always vote however he is told to. He is a puppet and will never, ever have an independent thought or vote like all Republicans. They vote however their money supply tells them to vote. That, my friends, is why we must get off of our butts, stop being afraid to raise our voices and educate people on these issues, and vote corporations such as the NRA out." Now, so obviously Marie is a Democrat, and she's criticizing Sturch from a Democrat point of view as his aunt. Supposedly, this is James Sturch's own aunt calling him out on Facebook.
I told you earlier when I read this.
You don't think this?
I don't think it's his aunt. Who talks about their family like this?
I don't know.
I've never seen anyone just absolutely rip their family to pieces like this. Like, regardless of if there's bad blood or anything, you're still going to defend your family. He's being thrown completely under the bus on this one.
I'm perplexed as well. Now, some people did not like her statement, and at the same time could disagree with what James Sturch did by walking out right at the moment. And if you haven't seen the video, you need to go watch it at conduitforaction.org, because it's the exact video from the House of Representatives when James Sturch voted for the special election reform bill, and then when they sounded the ballot, which is essentially a fancy roll call where you have to be in your seat. And if you're not in your seat, he waits until they get to the P's. Or maybe it was the L's or the O's. I don't remember. Anyway, he waits till they get really close to calling the S's. And that's when he gets up and leaves, and then they strike him, and the bill fails. Rick, you see that there. Rick is writing in response to this girl, or this aunt, supposed Aunt Marie. At least we don't have to wash bloody hands of abortion like Democrats do. Need to change name legally to the Devil Party. Closer fit now. I, too, was a staunch Democrat till party changed on me. I will take a money grabber over a killer any day. I also disagree with what he did, but that is what politicians do in both parties. Rick, I totally see your point, number one. But I will say this. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency now in Washington, D.C. And we're still planning on funding Planned Parenthood. And if you'll talk to people as to why, they'll say, well, it'll shut the government down. The Democrats will never let it happen. The government will just shut down. And what I would say to that is, I guess I would say the blood doesn't wash off, you may have to wash some blood off your hands if we're going to sit here and say, oh no, the government will shut down. I mean, is it a life or death issue or not? The roads won't get fixed. Is it a life or death issue or not? And it is. So that's kind of the way I feel about it. The Republican Party, in my opinion, on this issue of worrying about the government shutdown and funding Planned Parenthood, which is why many of you got elected, is it's a gut check. In light of the fact that we got a new baby body part video out where they talk about cutting yourself on how sharp a baby's skull is. These videos are sick. It's a Planned Parenthood convention, and they're talking about aborting babies and how the skull can break and actually can cut you, where you can actually, because it's just and it's just disgusting. And it's like, hang on a second. Now this stuff is in public. This stuff is out in the open, and I'm telling you that if we as a country are confronted with such barbarism and evil, and it's no longer being hidden anymore, and our leaders still don't do the right thing because they're afraid the government will shut down. I'm just saying personally, I can't understand that. I can't understand how it wouldn't be worth any sacrifice, especially if we're talking about, well, the Republicans may lose power next election. So what? If you have the power to stop and save children's lives. And I suppose they could come back and say, well, then they'll just go ahead and return the funding to them. I understand that, I guess, but look, there comes a time where we just have to admit 60 million kids have been killed by our own government. And if taxpayer money is going to Planned Parenthood, since 1970, we're talking about 60 million souls. It's more than that when you think about the babies would have had. It's unconscionable, and that cannot just go without being. You can't just ignore that. That you can't pretend like it didn't happen, and you certainly can't pretend like we can't use. We can't use the power that the people have given you to try to do everything you can, and if that means shutting down the government, fine. Let's go now to Twitter. We're changing gears here. J.R. Davis. Now, J.R. Davis over on Twitter is the governor's spokesperson, right? And Brian King has been, I guess, for a while now, speaking. Of course, Brian King comes on the show a lot. He's been speaking out about the overspending that's taken place, and there's been a lot of it, folks. There really has. There's been a ton of overspending. We've highlighted it here time and time again. And so he decides to make a tweet, and I'll get to his initial tweet here in just a minute. He decides to basically tweet, look, we got a major spending problem here, and the leadership doesn't want to talk about it. So without further ado, we haven't done one of these in a while, but it's just past time.
Follow us on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776. Now it's time for the twit of the day.
127th Upper Class Twit of the Year show.
Your mommy is a twit.
Thought by many to be this year's outstanding twit.
Why a spoon, cousin? Why not an axe?
Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more.
It's the twit of the day. But I want to keep this amazing music up. you see there on your screen, J.R. Davis attacking Brian King. Given the chance to vote for a work requirement for Arkansas Works, Brian King did not vote. Now, this was in a reply to a tweet that Brian King said, I never voted to increase the number of people on Obamacare in the first place and record Medicaid spending is not conservative. That's what he says. Governor spokesperson doesn't like that, decides to attack a senator, Brian King. It goes on. Brian King writes, good grief, man. You provided no detailed financial analysis. Also, with the bad shape of the budget, we needed far, far more reductions. And by the way, this is why J.R. Davis is the tweet of the day. We know that the work requirement is really kind of not going to affect that many people. You have to work 20 hours a week. That's the work requirement. And now we know why you didn't put the work requirement in the bill, JR, because you didn't actually want to have a debate. You wanted to just give the authority to DHS to request the waiver. You know, if you work 30 hours a week at a minimum wage job, you won't qualify for the private option. Keeps going. Are you scrolling here? J.R. Davis writes, disagree, vote against. Yelling your opposition without voting is pointless. You claim leadership, but your actions and record indicate otherwise. This was all started by Brian King talking about overspending, J.R. Davis deflecting by attacking Brian King and his voting record. They're deflecting away from the issue that he raised. Look at Joe Pertinelli. Governor's staff criticizing legislators on social media during a workday. Taxpayers don't pay you to ridicule those we elected. J.R. Davis responds, respectfully, I think you have to actually vote to be considered a legislator, Joe. So it's just shameless here. J.R. Davis really showing, I don't know, not a lot of class, I'll tell you that much. Hey, you know, let me tell you a story about J.R. Davis. You know, I'm down there at the Marble Palace, and I'm texting, and I'm covering the Marble Palace, 3 days a week. And all of a sudden, I get a text message from J.R. Davis. J.R. Davis was doing a few other radio shows. He was doing Dave Ellswick's show once a week, right? Once a week for like an hour, he would sit down with Dave Ellswick. And, I was like, oh, well, that's, good for him. I was like, it's, interesting he don't want to come on my show. That's fine. Let me just say this. If J.R. Davis had to come on my show, I don't think he would have made it past one. I don't think he would have made it past one time. I don't think he would have come back on the show if he would ever come on first, because my questions would have been respectful but factual, and I don't know how he would. I honestly just don't know how he would respond. But maybe he would have kept coming back on. That's fine. Here's the thing. I get this text message from the governor's spokesperson, J.R. Davis, who's now on Twitter, respectfully, well, you can judge if that's respectful or not. And he says, hey, Paul, what about a weekly segment on the show? I can stop by or whatever. And I don't remember precisely what I said, but I said, yeah, sure. When are you free? And if memory serves, and I have to go back and look specifically at the text messages, but I think we did at one point have something booked, and then J.R. Davis had to cancel for some reason, and then he said he was going to reschedule, but for some reason he never got back in touch with me to come on the program, which is fine. He was asking me to be on the program. All right, he was asking me to come on this program, and that's great, and that's fine, and everything else. But about that time, we started just really amping up a ton of information that I don't, that was very critical of the governor. That was very critical of the way he runs government. And I don't know if that was received very well. I do know that the governor was listening. I know that the governor's office listens to this program. People tell me, they said, hey, I was out the other day and the governor said he heard me on radio. And I was like, oh, really? He was like, yeah, and I haven't done any other shows but yours. So, I mean, we know that that's happening. We know that they, I believe, are worried about our message because, for the most part, they try to combat it with their carefully crafted language. But that's what I know of J.R. Davis here recently in this last session. He that's his job. I guess it's now his job to go out and trash state senators. But you keep reading there. You keep reading there. The issue is I have been warning them about spending. That's Brian King. Too much and corruption. They keep spending. They don't like the truth. J.R. Davis, again, will not respond to the fact that his boss is spending too much money, and then says, if nothing else, you're entertaining, I'll leave you with a tip. How to have credibility. 1, show up. 2, vote. Brian King responds, show up here. I will explain why I vote yes, vote no, and abstain. Easy to explain, and yes, had to explain to the voters up here in the past. Just like the milk fee vote, which J.R. Davis pulled that from the 87th General Assembly when Brian King was in the House. I have won 6 elections, Brian King writes. Nothing new here. You're saying that hasn't been said before. Notice how JR doesn't want to talk about overspending and corruption. Wonder why. I don't know. I'd love for JR to say, hey, why did Asa Hutchinson throw a fundraiser for John Woods before John Woods announced he wasn't going to? I mean, because everybody knew John Woods was under investigation. I mean, good grief, if I knew, I know the governor's office had to know. And yet, the fundraiser gets thrown, and then John Woods decides, I want to go fishing. I want to go fishing. I don't actually want to run for re-election anymore. Anyway, that'd be a great question. I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to talk to J.R. Davis about why Governor Asa Hutchinson hasn't requested Jake Files to resign. I'd love to get him on record on that. Why do we have such obvious reporting of really, really funny business going on, and yet Jake Files, no calls from the Democrats to have him resign, but you would think, the moral high ground, the Republicans are supposed to be the, moral high ground is supposed to be the low-hanging fruit. I would have loved to ask J.R. Davis why he thought, it was okay for his boss, during the primaries to put out postcards saying that Arkansas Works wasn't Obamacare, and then he went out and actually said that Medicaid expansion was Obamacare a week later at a national conference. You see, these are questions. They're tough questions, but I have a pretty good memory, and I know what was said, and I also know what is done versus what is said. I'd ask J.R. Davis, hey, what did the governor have specifically against Josh Miller's conservative voting record when against the will of the Republican caucus and went out and recruited somebody to run against one of the most conservative legislators in the state of Arkansas? Why is the governor so worried about limited government conservatism? Why did the governor torpedo and throw Bob Ballinger's Religious Freedom Restoration Bill under the bus? Why did he throw Bob Ballinger under the bus? Why did the governor betray the NRA? Why did he do those things? Why does the governor seem to like to put people into groups when it comes to the tax code? Why does the governor want so badly to raise our taxes? Why does he want that so badly? Why is the governor overspent for the last 3 years? Why? Anyway, tweet of the day, J.R. Davis, 870-275. 9799. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in a minute.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal.
Ethics.
Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, Loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
You know, sometimes I really don't like being so. I don't know. You know, I don't like sometimes the frustration level of me personally. I really don't. And then I think to myself, but if I wasn't saying these things, I honestly do not know who else in the state of Arkansas would be saying them. So, if you disagree with everything I say, okay, I guess you think I'm wrong all the time. That's fine. I was telling friends the other day, sometimes, 50% of the people like what I say, 50% of the people hate what I say. Okay, whatever. But even if you disagree with my perspective, the information that you get on this program is correct. That's what I would suggest to you. And I would love for a liberal Democrat to tell me the difference between the Democrats in charge at the State House and the Republicans. And what is the difference? And there is no difference. There's just the letter difference, and that's it. I mean, this perspective, Asa Hutchinson, his spokesperson, J.R. Davis, they want you to think that everything is fine. They want you to think that your government is doing what you elected them to do, and I am one of the lone voices. There are a few others. Conduit for Action is certainly it, telling you that that's not the truth, that they're not doing what you elected them to do, that they are enabling the status quo. They are protecting the status quo. They're protecting government. They don't agree with Ronald Reagan that government is not the solution to the problems that Arkansas faces. Government is the problem. They don't believe that. Well, JR might, he's being paid to defend the governor, and that's fine. That's fine, I'm fortunate enough that I have a platform where I get to say the things that I truly believe in. I get to articulate the principles that I truly believe in. And I'm very, very fortunate that is the case. Very blessed that is the case. Call me or text me, 870-275-9799. If you call and we don't answer, you can leave a voice message. Sometimes we play those voice messages on the broadcast. Go to paulharrell.com to get our Liberty Machine T-shirts. That's the Liberty Machine T-shirts there. Just click on store once you go to paulharrell.com. You can also get the podcast, the video archives there as well on iTunes, SoundCloud, whatever you want, and it's all free. Our YouTube videos are doing pretty good. Butch Cooper yesterday, who was on the program, we made 3 videos because it was a 3-part interview about workers' compensation and how his business is struggling because of the government requirement and the insurance companies and the rating agencies and everything else. It's a fascinating interview. It's going to make the rounds, and you can get that at YouTube now. 3-part interview at the Paul Harrell Program YouTube page. Arkansas, be safe. Mountain Talk 97. You guys have one more hour coming your way next.